Go. Go. Is this where you want to be? Daisy, go. Are within the... I love you, but go. Go lay down. Hello friends, I'm Tiffany and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited because today I am going to be giving you 10 tips for fostering dogs. So if you follow me on Instagram, then you know that my fiance and I have been fostering dogs pretty much since we moved to Nebraska. We have fostered 3 dogs through a local company, and this company actually doesn't have a physical shelter. All of the pets that come through this program are all fostered. So the first dog we fostered was a Shih Tzu. His name was Gunner. He was 3 years old and he was an owner surrender. He was very cute, but he also used the bathroom a lot in the house, which was kind of surprising to me because he was an owner surrender and he had been with the same owner since he was a puppy. He had a lot of fun quirks and he liked to play. Him and Gunther got along. But he was only with us for about 8 days before he was adopted. And then our second foster, his name was Hank. He was a beagle. He was a puppy. He was only 9 months old and he was a handful. He got us up super early every single morning, about 5 a.m., which was a lot earlier than either of us were ready to get up. But he was very cute. He just brought a lot of life into our home, and him and Gunther got along so well. He definitely brought a little youthfulness out of Gunther. And if you don't know who Gunther is our dog that we actually adopted last year, and I did a furry friends tag with him, so I will put that up here and in the description below so you guys can learn a little bit more about Gunther. But when it came to Hank, Hank loved playing with toys and Gunther did not. He was never interested in toys ever, and so whenever Hank came along and Gunther saw how much he loved playing with toys, they actually played with toys together, and we had this rope toy that we got just from the Dollar Tree, and they ended up playing tug of war with it, and it was just so cute. Hank was only with us for 7 days before he got adopted. And our latest foster is Daisy, and if you have seen my Instagram post, we actually ended up adopting Daisy. I knew that I wanted to keep her within the first few days of her being here with us, and she has just been an absolute joy in the household. Daisy is 2 years old and we believe that she is a blue heeler black lab mix, and she was actually hit by a car, and the intention was for her to come and rest with us. So we were just supposed to be a chill place for her to rest for about 4 to 6 weeks, and then she would be able to get adopted once she had healed. But then we just fell in love with her and we decided to keep her. And I'm actually going to do a whole introduction video for Daisy, so definitely be looking out for that. So if you are thinking about fostering, I have 10 tips that will help you be a successful foster. And I'm actually going to be focusing on fostering dogs because I don't have any experience fostering cats or anything like that, but just know that there are opportunities to foster cats as well, and sometimes even guinea pigs, rabbits, and other animals. So the first tip I have for you is to just do a general safety check of your home. This is actually something that we had to do with the company that we are volunteering with, and so they walked us through and did that. But it is definitely something that you can also do on your own if it is not a requirement of the facility that you are fostering for. So just things that you should look for: just do a walk of your home and just look for anything that basically a puppy would get into and it would be unsafe. So you would want to keep like cleaning supplies, you would want to keep that secure, and you would just want to keep things that are low to the ground. You just want to make sure that those are safe for dogs to get into. And also, if you are fostering puppies, you just want to make sure that you don't keep a bunch of things out, because with Hank, he did ruin a couple of my flip-flops, and that's just something that we never had to think about before because we had never had puppies in the house, and so that is just something to think about. And also be sure to do a walk of your yard. If you have a fenced-in yard, be sure to just do a walk around the perimeter of the fence. Make sure there's not any holes that the dog can go under and escape in. Do your best to fill in any holes, fill in any gaps, and just make sure that the dog will be safe in the yard. Tip number 2 is to gather the basics. These are things like bowls, a leash, a collar, maybe toys, treats. You may even want to get some dog shampoo because you don't know what conditions the dogs were in before they are coming to you. So you may want to give them a bath as soon as they get into your home. And then if you want to do like extra things, you can also think about getting a crate, or you can get a dog tag that just has your phone number on it just in case the dog does get out. Tip number 3 is to ask what things will be provided for you. The company that I'm with is really great about providing pretty much almost anything that you can imagine. And so you don't have to spend any money out of pocket to get so many of the basic necessities that you need just to have a dog in your home. This includes food, heartworm medication, flea and tick medication, and just things like that. And then if it is an owner surrender, you can also ask what things they are willing to give up with the dog. So with Gunner and Hank, both of them were owner surrenders. So I made sure to ask what things they were going to give up whenever they surrendered their dog. And some of them gave toys, like some of their favorite toys. Some of them gave clothes, collars, leashes. Hank had a crate that he came with. And then also you may want to ask about food, because if they are on a special diet, or even if they are just on a food that they're used to, then it may be a good idea to get as much food of that as possible before you're able to re-up. And then if the company that you're volunteering for, if they don't have that same type of food, then you'll be able to kind of wean them off of that and be able to switch over to the new food. And you also want to try to get your hands on their vet records, because this will be very important for you in case you have to get them up to date on their vet records. And then if that's not the case, then it's definitely something that you'll want to pass on to their next owner. Tip number 4 is to get as much information about the dog as possible. This includes their feeding schedule, when they last had their shots, if they're microchipped, their sleeping schedule, their potty schedule, anything about their background history, if there's any trauma, anything that they're scared of. You want to get information about their vet, when their shots are due, just as much information as possible. Just gather that. Also, just know that if the dog you're fostering isn't up to date on their shots, it might be your responsibility to get them up to date on their shots. And so you may need to schedule their vet visit, and if they're not spayed or neutered, you may need to do that as well, and maybe even get them microchipped if they're not microchipped already. Tip number 5 is to know what you can and can't do. We all have limitations because of our lifestyle. So if your lifestyle calls for you to be out of the house for 8 hours, then just know that going into it. Because if you have a puppy or a dog with diabetes or a dog with some other health condition that has to have attention or has to have certain medication every hour, then you aren't going to be able to foster that dog. So just think about your lifestyle and the lifestyles of the people that you're living with before you commit to a foster, because not every foster is going to be your perfect fit. So whenever you do get your foster, make sure you give them time to settle in. Don't immediately just let them come into your home and try to change their lifestyle. What I like to do is I like to bring them into the backyard first. I like to let them sniff around, make sure they use the bathroom so that they don't do it in your home. And then if you do have another dog in the house, I would definitely introduce them outside rather than inside. And if you do have another dog or multiple dogs, don't think that you can't foster a dog. You know your dog's temperament and you know how your dog is with other dogs. So if you have a dog that overall does really well with other dogs, then keep that in mind and keep your mind and heart open to foster. fostering, because we have a dog and he is just very chill, and we knew that going in. And even though he hasn't had a ton of opportunities to be around other dogs, for the most part, he does very well with other dogs. So Daisy just needs so much attention right now. And then if it ends up being not a good fit and the dogs don't get along, then that's just a bridge that you can cross if you have to. My next tip is to try not to change up your foster's routine too much. Your home is a temporary home for your foster, so just keep that in mind when you're trying to assimilate them into your life. You want to keep things from their previous situation as close as possible. Of course, if they're a stray or something like that, then that is definitely a different condition, because Daisy was a stray, so we just had no preconceived notions of anything of her lifestyle before. So that is definitely different. But if your foster is coming from a previous home, or even sometimes from a shelter, then just try to keep things as close to their lifestyle as possible. And I don't mean like if they come from a shelter, keep them in a cage all day, because you definitely shouldn't do that. But you want to try to not change up their feeding schedule, not change up their potty schedule, and some of their habits, you don't want to change those either. And one example I have of this is whenever we had Gunner would jump up onto the furniture, and we previously did not let dogs on the couch. Now we do, and we usually actually have a sheet on the couch so that dog hair can get on the sheet and not on the couch. But with Gunner, he was a Shih Tzu, so he didn't shed. So it wasn't a big deal to us that he got onto the couch, but it wasn't something that I loved, and it was something that we were going to attempt to get him out of that habit. But then upon reflecting on it, we were just like, well, he's not going to be with us forever. So if he wants to get on the couch, if he wants to get on the bed, then he can do that, because maybe in his next home he'll be able to do that. And he's spent 3 years of his life being able to do that. So we weren't going to force him to get out of that habit and try to train him to get out of that habit, because he wasn't going to be with us forever. And speaking of training, my next tip is to not feel like you need to know how to train dogs. I had no idea how to train dogs. I did work at a doggy daycare for a while, but that didn't exactly prepare me for training dogs. I've never trained dogs before. The point of fostering is to give dogs a comfortable and loving home to be in until they find their forever homes. And so don't feel like you have to have all this training or this background in training in order to foster a dog. And there may be some companies that ask you to do some training. Mine doesn't, but if that's the case, there are tons of YouTube videos out there with just basics of how to potty train your dog, or how to just teach them how to do things like sit and lay down and things like that. From my experience, it's definitely not a requirement that you have to do any kind of training at all. I didn't do any kind of training with Gunner or Hank, and with Daisy, we only started doing that because she became a part of our family. My next tip is to learn everything you can about your foster. If your dog happens to be an owner surrender, then you're gonna already have a little bit of background information about your foster. But if they're in a situation like Daisy was, where she was a stray and they didn't have any information on her, then that is going to be your responsibility to learn all of the dog's quirks and all of their likes and dislikes and their habits. It's going to be your responsibility to learn that information and also take note of it, because this is very important information that you are going to have to pass on to their adopter. If you can, try to update their adoption profile as often as possible, because that's important information that will get the attention of potential adopters. And my last tip is to take lots of photos and videos of your foster. We live in a very visual world, and seeing photos and videos really helps us connect, and that goes with fostering too. My dog that I had before Gunther, I fell in love with her and decided I wanted to adopt her based on her profile and the pictures that they had on the website before I even met her. And that's how a lot of people decide whether or not they want to adopt a dog. And that was the case with Gunner and Hank. Both of them were adopted from their profiles, and the owners didn't even meet them until they had already officially adopted them. So make sure you take lots of photos and videos and share that with the people who update the website or even the social media. Just share all of that information, because the more pictures and videos you have, the more likely their personality is going to shine through and they will get adopted by the right people. So those are the 10 tips that I have for you if you are interested in fostering dogs. If you have experienced fostering dogs and you have any tips, definitely leave those below for both me and anybody else who may be interested in fostering dogs. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope that you got some good information from this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!